I want to just start by acknowledging that we have a sponsor for these Something to Talk About programs. It's the Fieldstone Memory Care located at Rolling Bay. And they offer innovative and compassionate care, and they are now accepting residents. And you can tour the facility if you're interested by scheduling an appointment with them at 360-271-2530. And we're grateful for sponsors. And I know Dominique understands that because BPA has been very reliant on sponsorships as well. And I'm sure no more than in the past year when it's been really difficult to figure out how to keep the show going when there really weren't the option of any kind of memberships or subscriptions or anything like that. So I feel like you have done a wonderful job in the last year and a half. So congratulations first for that.
Thank you.
What have you learned, and how are you? I know that you've transitioned. Tell us a little bit about that. You have a at least temporary stage set up in the pavilion.
What have we learned? Well, first of all, thank you all for having me, and it's really nice to see some familiar faces. A couple of you I've seen in person already. Others I hope to see again soon. What have we learned? I think 2020, the word of the year was probably pivot. And we learned that can be a pirouette. Like anything can be done with a little bit of artistry. And so we just kind of made a play of it, and we just kept turning and spinning and came out right. So in the midst of the pandemic, of course, we launched a capital campaign. Somewhat quietly, although it's very public now, in so much as if you've been past Town Square, you'll see that there is no longer a lobby or a front lawn at BPA. And actually, our opening weekend in the pavilion, somebody came up to us at the little box office we have and said, there's no lobby. I just went down there. Where are you? You're here. We're here. This is what we're doing for the next year and a half. So it's very exciting to be in this partnership with the Pavilion and Bainbridge Cinemas. We've taken over Theater 3, which is the largest of the theater spaces, and we've kind of transformed it into a pseudo performing arts theater. We've got a stage there. Of course, it's quite a bit smaller than the one that we're used to performing on, but you would be surprised how much can be done in a small space with a little bit of creativity. We can't fit big sets and that kind of thing in, but we've got that huge screen. So we're able to have a lot of fun with digital projections. And the audience so far has just come along with us. There's no disguising that it's a movie theater. And so with a little bit of a sense of humor, it's actually pretty great.
Well, I feel like on the heels of your rolling back the time machine and having a whole radio series when we weren't even allowed to be in the same room together, you've been exploring the history of performance in a way over the last year and a half or 2 years.
Yeah, it was really interesting that what was a staple of the past was suddenly the staple of our immediate future. And realizing how far we'd come from the comfort of those traditions and what had to be relearned, what translated from the stage to the radio of sorts, and what didn't. And it was so much fun to take that journey, and such an exciting creative challenge. At a time when there were so many challenges that we couldn't control and things that were hard, it was really wonderful to have this inspiring piece at the center of what we were doing that was the kind of challenge that we wanted. And Matt Hadlock, who is our sound engineer on stage, was our sound engineer for the podcast, and we all learned so much more. And I think technically, as we've come out of it and we're sort of having to design sound for this new space, which is a very dead space, a movie theater, you see it's got sound dampening and curtains on all the walls. We're having to be very creative once again in a different kind of space, and having apply those old tricks to a new thing has been very helpful, actually, as we've moved forward back on stage.
So one of the advantages I think that you've had is the support of your community to keep the staff employed, so that you've been able to have the resources to support volunteers who want to continue to do these programs.
Yeah, that really has been one of the biggest gifts. We did have to, unfortunately, pare down our staff. Our technical director and our director of education simply couldn't work. We didn't have classes to pull together. We didn't have sets to build. And in 2020 and certainly now, those continue to be the biggest losses. And as we're working to build back capacity, looking at the staff resources that we have and the family that has come through this together has just been enormously hopeful in what we've been able to do. Everybody wears 10 different hats. And certainly the folks at the theater have seen us go from, our grubbies one moment, and we'll do like a quick change in the closet and come back for showtime. It's really fun to be working with a group that is this creative and dedicated. I can't say enough how difficult the last year and a half has been. And all of it has been made better by this group of individuals and the enormous community of support that we feel we have.
That's great. Yeah, it's a wonderful resource, and it looks like it's going to get even more flexible and better as the capital program gets underway. And in a way, this is taking advantage of kind of a in-between space where you weren't sure what you could do, in large part because of COVID. And of course, those questions keep coming up. Omicron is in the news, and who knows what as somebody said the other day, I sure hope I don't have to learn the whole Greek alphabet, but
well, I was a classics minor, so that may be the one thing that actually prepared me for.
So you could correct my pronunciation.
Yeah, we've got pi, rho, sigma coming up.
So this winter, what are you planning in terms of production schedules? And there was also a question before we got started about what you know about the Bainbridge Symphony, which obviously has also been hit by this.
Yes. So coming up, well, right away this weekend, we are kicking off holiday programming. We have a cabaret that's hosted by Lisa Mandelkorn and has a couple of extraordinary soloists and performers. It's so much fun. A little bit of a variety show. There's some audience participation. Don't worry, we won't pull you up on stage, but some games, like, how Jimmy Fallon sometimes plays some fun holiday games with his guests. It'll be a lot like that. Listening to rehearsal, it is just the most joyful, exciting way. I feel like it's always kind of hard, especially when the first weekend in December comes quickly on the heels of Thanksgiving. I have a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that it's December and it's really time to shift gears. And I think anybody who's having a hard time with that will definitely be motivated by this because it's so much fun. And then next weekend, we have 3 different things going on. On the Friday the 10th, we have stand-up comedy, Dan Rosenberg, and 4 other headliners, including, if you've come to the Seattle International Comedy Competition finalists at BPA, one of the finalists from a couple of years ago who was really popular on Bainbridge is going to be there as well. Then we have Edge Improv. And to answer the symphony question, another couple of chamber groups from the Symphony Orchestra are also going to be playing holiday music, not necessarily the traditional carols, but original compositions for the holidays. So that's great. We've had 2 symphony, reduced scope symphony concerts since we've opened, one in November and one now. Certainly the challenges of the space pose a bigger issue for full symphony membership. than something like improv, which you can port almost anywhere. There is simply no way to fit 60 musicians on that stage, or maybe anywhere in that space. And thankfully, we have one of the most creative, enthusiastic conductors in Maestro Torres, and he has been thinking about how to program for sort of chamber size pieces, chamber size groups that can rotate in and out. Big challenge has been, of course, with the winds and the brass. That's a tough thing in COVID. You know, you're spreading it everywhere. And that's part of why we've taken the really sort of extraordinary COVID measures that we have, both for our audience and our performers. For our audience, we require that every member of the audience be vaccinated, bring proof of vaccination. We do have some medical exemptions, but we also require proof of medical exemption so that we know that the community is really protecting one another in this space. We also require patrons to wear masks throughout the performance, which we recognize is not entirely comfortable, but it's certainly more comfortable as a patron to wear the mask and have the performers take them off than to try to watch performers in their masks. So bit of a compromise, but it's been very worthwhile. And thankfully, we've all been taking those measures for long enough now that it's more comfortable than it may have been for some of us in the beginning.
Was there any ventilation issue that you had to think about in those spaces? Just curious.
Actually, ventilation was one of the reasons that we decided to make the long-term commitments in the cinema. They actually have a state-of-the-art HVAC system, and it replaces all of the air in the space 6 times an hour with filtration that is actually the air that is being pumped into our theater space is cleaner than the outside air. So that was a big part of our willingness to actually go in that space and to tell performers in conjunction with the measures that the patrons are taking, it is safe to take off your mask. It is safe to perform. You know, all of these individuals are volunteers, they're professional something else's, and we want to make sure that they're taken care of. So we actually have testing for our performers as well. Before they all get together and are in the space, we make sure that they're healthy and ready to go. And it keeps everybody safer. We don't want to be ground zero for variant pi.
No, I agree with you. We have the same concerns here for sure at the Senior Center, trying to figure out how to balance the importance of being able to get together and do things in proximity without putting each other at unnecessary risk. So I congratulate you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about what you are thinking about a little longer term out, as you recognize that maybe you'll have a little more flexibility, or you're starting to think about what this, what the rest of the season might look like in a way that you weren't able to do a year ago?
Well, I mean, like you said, new variants pose a constant challenge, but we've also sort of come to terms with the fact that may be the case for a very long time. So we are programming in smaller chunks than we used to. Ordinarily we would be announcing a season a year in advance. We'd have 18 months of planning. That is hard for performers to plan on things that might get pulled out from under them. It's hard for the theater space. So we're kind of taking it a month or two at a time. We're building flexibility into the schedule for our performers, for the rights holders. I mean, that's a big deal, securing royalties for what it is that we're going to perform. And then having total flexibility for our patrons as well. So I think you'll probably see shorter runs of things, almost more like concert versions when we do musicals. You're probably, not going to see a fully staged version of Cats anytime soon. And that's okay. It really allows us to be nimble. And if it gets to the point where it's not safe to perform again, if we have to step back, that's not going to be catastrophic for us or our community of performers again. We're pretty sure that we've built some security into this, that shouldn't have to be the case. But, we've gotten so comfortable, not with just plan B. We're down at plan XYZ at this point. And we're having fun with it.
So just keep an eye on your website and see as things pop up. And obviously, if there's anything that you ever want to come back to this forum and let us know about, we're happy to share with the community. So
one
you
more
knew
thing
that
to keep an eye out for.
Okay.
If you're interested, it hasn't been posted yet, so you are actually the very first ones that are going to hear about this. But we are bringing back our first set of classes. We'll probably be announcing next week, but we're going to bring back 3 improv classes. So we will have improv for adults, for teens, and for youth. They'll run for 6 weeks starting at the end of January. And we kind of felt that was the perfect way to reintroduce people to one another, because everything in life seems a little bit like improv right now. So it's a good time to get good at it. So keep an eye out for that. We will also be posting January and February programming very soon. We've got quite a bit in the works there. And I just want to put a plug in for our gala. Again, this year, it's going to be virtual, but we are already working on the show. It is such a fun night. And we're going to have the VIP packages. We make these fabulous floral arrangements and goodies and that kind of thing. So save the date for that. It's the last week of January, and the live event is January 29th, and it's totally free to attend.
Great. And the other thing that's coming up right now that I just want to mention is that we're in obviously One Call for All giving season. And this year, probably since the idea of subscriptions and even box is been quite lessened, the support from the community for direct donations to help keep the wheels churning would be welcome, eh?
Genuinely more than ever.
So if you're still looking at your red envelope, please don't forget BPA.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the Bucks Starts Here, the Frank Buxton Memorial, or whatever we want to call it, honorary tribute in the redesign and reconfiguration of Bainbridge Performing Arts.
So I encourage you, if you can go to bainbridgeperformingarts.org, and up on the very top, you'll see that there's a tab for the Buxton Center. And you can see what it is that we're working on and why it's taking the entire community's support to make it happen. But those of you who remember being in BPA may have remembered that there were some challenges in the space, both in the theater for the audience and out in the lobby. You know, we had 256 seats, but the lobby felt like it could hold about 150. So those sold out nights were difficult. We are expanding the lobby. We are fully changing the seating. So no one will have to walk out on stage anymore when they're coming in and out of the theater. A lot more accessible seating with cross aisles. You can enter from the rear of the theater. We're going to have an elevator, so the entire second floor of the building will be accessible, which is huge, especially for musicians, for costumers, for the people who work behind the scenes, and of course for our patrons who want to come in through the back. We're going to have a sensory access room so that individuals who have challenges with lights, sounds, parents of very young children who want to come and be able to enjoy the performance can do so in a sensory controlled room as well. And then the very most exciting thing, of course, is that we are adding a studio theater. So to the north of the site, sort of where our box office and that very wet lawn used to be, we're having a studio theater, probably around 90 unfixed seats. So it can be for chamber music concerts. It could also be stripped for rehearsal, for readings, for rentals, for meetings, you name it. We have tried to bring more of the community into it so that it really functions on many levels for hopefully many different organizations.
And I'm sure this is borne out from your experience as executive director on the kinds of things you've tried to do in the space that you've been working with.
You know, certainly in my tenure, I've been there almost 12 years now. But, you know, the organization is coming up on 66 years old. And so I have, you know, a couple of generations of history to build upon as well. And having a community that is as creative and involved as this one is, the number of volunteers that we have, Sheila, one of our absolute best, really gives us a lot of insight into what the community needs, wants, and where it's headed. So we're trying to build not just for, you know, what we've realized in the last 10 years or so have been the needs, but what we anticipate will be the case for a generation to come.
That is fantastic. I'm looking forward to your, I hope, smooth success in moving through construction to opening, which will be in the future, but not too far down. It's now being realized.
The way that time is moving these days, I feel like we're gonna blink and be there. I can't wait to get to the point where we can give hard hat tours. I mean, right now it's exciting because you can just, see through the walls. But we've just poured footings. Like there's concrete. You can see what the footprint is going to be going forward, and it'll be really fun to get to bring others into the space.
So I want to make sure that I open this up. If there's somebody who's on the call who has a question or comment, please feel free to open up your microphone and jump in. Sheila?
Yeah.
The aforementioned volunteer extraordinaire. You're also our volunteer extraordinaire. So you are.
Of course. Absolutely. I only spread myself to the best places. That's all. I want to come back as an usher and I'm dying, except Dominique, you know, I'm just so grateful Siobhan has given me tickets for these plays so I can come and see them. I want you to know that she has been so gracious to me and I'm so grateful to her. She's of course one of my dear friends anyway, still I get choked up about wonderful people like that, you know. I want you to know that last program that you had with the musical one, well, both of the musical one and then the one that the orchestra did. Oh my Lord. It was both of them absolutely fantastic. And I went online to see the musical again because it was on YouTube or whatever, and I got the chance to see it again and with my program in front of me. So I was able to tell exactly what was going on. Boy, I tell you, the talent. I don't know about the rest of you, but if you get a chance to see that, go on YouTube and you can see this extraordinary group of people just who are having a blast.
Anymore.
Well, they were having a blast.
It was up for one day. That's all we could get the rights for. One day.
Well, and they were having a blast, you know? It was wonderful. Now, is it still on YouTube though?
No, it's not. So MTI, Music Theater International, was the rights holder, and they actually did a wonderful thing. They licensed that to amateur theater companies for free all across the country, which is huge because royalties for a musical can be anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000 for us, which after having had no ticket revenue for 87 weeks is a really hard thing to commit to up front. So they did this for musical theaters so that we could start building some revenue and I think probably have some cash to pay for the royalties for the next one. It was very clever. But they let us stream it for one day, which was really nice because a lot of people aren't traveling. So parents and grandparents of the performers who are in other parts of the country still got to be a part of it. It was really great. Thank you.
Some of those people who performed are from somewhere else, eh?
No, they're all from around here. Most of them are from the island. A couple you'll recognize are longtime BPA performers who now live in Seattle. But lots of them have family who are elsewhere.
Right, right.
And
Jeff?
so that I'm wondering, that raises a question about the activities that might be shared online. Are you looking at all at whether there are aspects of your performance schedule that might be at least like you were just describing, available for a window, or are we kind of past that now?
No, it's a huge factor in what we are considering for programming going forward. You know, in a community theater, we were really committed to trying to make everybody feel at home. And we realized that not everybody in our community, for a number of reasons, are ready to come back now, whether it's vaccination status or preference or compromised family members. So we really want to be able to stream more. We've applied for a grant that will help us do that. It's not as easy as it looks. Thankfully, one of our staff members had some equipment at home. I brought in some stuff and we cobbled together a system that worked one time. So it's something that we want to build capacity for and continue to do. And as we're looking at programming and the rights for things, that's a big factor, is whether or not streaming is allowed for that, because we'd really like to build out that capacity. It's such a nice thing to do, and for a community organization, I think just fits so well with our mission of inclusion and accessibility.
Agreed. Yeah, we also are looking at that. We fortunately don't have the kind of rights issues for most of what we do. A lot of it's talking or just smaller groups. We're doing a lot of, we have a karaoke group that used to meet and sing in the fireside room here at the senior center. And now we can do that with at least some of the people on Zoom. You don't feel like you're singing together, but you are singing along at the same time to the same song. And that it's amazing how even those things, and being able to participate like we are right now in a group and see our full faces, is so nice.
Yeah, it sort of feels like pulling the threads of the social fabric back in again.
Yeah, we're finding ways to do that. So is there anything else that we didn't touch on, Dominique, that you would like to share? Or do we pretty much
I hope so much to see you all again soon. And Sheila, we're getting very close to having volunteer ushers back. I think once everybody gets comfortable with our COVID protocol, and we're not putting our volunteers quite so much in the hot seat, then we'll do that. But in the meantime, one thing for everyone to keep in mind, and for you to share with friends, is that we do have also what's called an open doors program. We make tickets available to every member of the community free of charge, either through Helpline House or for our box office. If anybody, even for a moment, thinks, that's a stretch, we don't want that to be a barrier. So you can email me, you can call the box office, whatever it is. Everyone is always welcome, regardless of ability to pay. And that translates to our classes as well. We have scholarships for all students, no questions asked. If you ask us, the answer is yes.
Thank you, Dominique. And thank you for coming by today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.